This is the first time we've sort of gotten some insight into what Canada is willing to do, what Canada is really pushing for. The big headline out of this is sort of the concessions Canada appears to be willing to sort of put on the table in order to get something in exchange for that. It has to do with the booze bans. It has to do with the way that dairy quotas are looked at, not a dismantling of supply management. We just need to make that very explicitly clear. And then some tariffs that Canada, retaliatory tariffs Canada has imposed related to the auto sector. Canada is willing to sort of pull back and meet some American demands related to those in order to make sure those 50% tariffs don't come into effect on August 19th, to get those CUSMA negotiations back on track and to get some sectoral tariff relief when it comes to steel, aluminum, and lumber.
Just like when Ontario charged us, everybody said, oh, they just charged. I said, this would be one in 1 hour. And they announced what we were going to do, and they withdrew their little threat. And what they don't say in Canada is that 270%. Have you ever heard that? We have tariffs on dairy products from Canada of 270%, going up to 400%. You never hear that. Canada's absolutely one of the worst. And we, when I say worst in terms of charging tariffs. Their dairy products, they charge our farmers 240, 250, 270, and 400%. Okay? Think of that for dairy product. And we charge them like peanuts. You know why? Because we've been improperly run for so many years. I had that all settled in my first term. But then, of course, Biden, he let everything go to hell.
It's clear that the ban on American booze is working. So if Trump wants to negotiate an end to the trade deal that he started, we're happy to get a fair deal for Canadians. But until then, the U.S. booze stays off the shelves. By the way, happy birthday to Premier Eby from British Columbia. We're united as Team Canada. Thank you for your attention to this message.
Hi, Prime Minister.
Mr. Carney, have you spoken to the President today yet, sir?
No, I didn't speak to the President today.
Any reaction to the news we put on Truth Social today?
We'll continue to conduct these complex negotiations in the best interests of Canadians. It's a negotiation. Ça va continuer.
I feel sorry for Americans. If you can't be friends with Canada, then you almost certainly do not have a friend anywhere in the world. And that is a very lonely place to be.
I love tariffs. They're my favorite word in the dictionary, tariff. I love tariffs, right? Because we've been screwed by tariffs used against us for years by China, by Japan, by South Korea, by Germany, by everybody, by Canada. Canada's nasty. They are. They're nasty. People think Canada, they're nasty. I love the people, but they're nasty. Nasty leadership.
Whatever adjective is used, yes, we're standing up for Canadian workers, for Canadian businesses, as we always have from the start. And from the start, our focus has been on what we can control, and that's investing in protecting our jobs, investing in the future.
President Trump just told a pretty big lie about Canadian dairy tariffs.
They do the first little carton of milk at a very low price, but after that it gets bad, and then it gets up to 275, 300%.
Nope, it's not just one little carton. Under the USMCA that Trump's own first administration negotiated, Canada guaranteed that tens of thousands of metric tons per year of U.S. milk imports would be tariff-free. So not low tariffs, zero tariffs. And here's something else Trump didn't mention. The U.S. currently isn't even at half of that tariff-free maximum level. So those high Canadian tariffs that apply above the maximum aren't currently in effect.
U.S. President Donald Trump has just announced a 50% tariff on a large swath of Canadian imports to take effect within 30 days. Now, to justify this, he's pointed to old grievances, insisting that we're just so unfair to American cars and dairy, and also cited the fact that many Canadian provinces refuse to sell American alcohol, which, by the way, was only done as a direct response to the United States launching a trade war with us. Like, I swear to God, Canada lives rent-fucking-free in this man's head. Like, when Trump stubs his fucking toe, his first thought is probably, oh my God, why would Canada do this?
Today, we are looking at a trade battle that could affect millions of people across North America and Canada. What started as a dispute over tariffs has now grown into a high-stakes showdown involving Canada's massive potash industry, American food supply, and billions of dollars in trade. Is this simply tough political negotiations, or are we witnessing the beginning of another economic war that could drive up food prices and change the future of farming? Stay with us until the end, because the facts may surprise you. But first, Watch some more clips carefully. After the clips, we'll come back to break down everything, why this story is making headlines across the world.
Well, I have some very good news for Canadians. You should consider your passport a stock certificate for the future, because there is no country with wealth like this one. And here's what's going to happen in the next 20 years. I can practically guarantee this is going to happen. This tiff, this dispute with our largest neighbor to the south, is going to disappear out of economic necessity. We will somehow combine these two economies, not with sovereign designation. Canadians will remain Canadians, Americans will remain Americans. There will be an EU passport you can pursue eventually. We will diminish and resolve and eliminate all tariffs of all commodities across that border to create an economy that can spend 5% of its GDP defending itself against China, because they have a plan. They're going to come over and they want to become the #1 economy on earth. We have to remain that with our version of democracy and freedom of speech and the things that Canadians and Americans believe in and have for hundreds of years. We too, it may not be under Carney, and Trump may not be under him, but I guarantee you, combining the two economies to a common currency, a common EU type passport, and keeping sovereignty is the solution. And you will see it in your lifetime. I guarantee it, that's going to happen 100%, because it has to. Otherwise, the Chinese are going to be telling you what to have for breakfast in 20 years.
A source close to the government tells CTV News the Prime Minister was caught off guard by the announcement of new 50% tariffs.
I spoke with President Trump earlier this morning. We agreed to intensify negotiations in the coming weeks.
The tariffs will impact more than 500 additional products, from hockey sticks to wine to cement. That's about 5% or $28 billion worth of Canadian exports.
Only response to the way they've treated our farmers and our people. Canada's been very, very tough on us over the years, for many years, and no other president's done anything about it. I mean, in all fairness to them, they need us to survive.
The opposition leader says the new duties are unjustified and wrong, and is calling for all parties to work together to prevent them from happening. The Carney government has already made several concessions. It's splitting revenues on the Gordie Howe Bridge before it recoups the cost of building it. The digital services tax has been scrapped, and the Online Streaming Act rolled back. But the Trump administration says irritants like the provincial alcohol ban and supply management in the dairy sector remain.
Things that do not fundamentally commit to resolve these issues, maybe just talk about them some more. And for us, we want them fixed.
Carney wants debilitating tariffs on steel, aluminum, and autos removed, and Kuzma preserved, but says putting U.S. liquor back on shelves will be up to the provinces.
The decision to change that, first and foremost, will be taken by the provinces themselves, each individually, and should only be taken, in my judgment, as part of an overall agreement.
Carney did not rule out retaliatory action, which a former Trudeau policy advisor says could be effective.
There are approximately 500 products that they are applying tariffs to from Canada, none of which are oil, none of which are critical minerals, the things that they know that if the costs of astronomically rise, that it will drastically affect their industry.
The Carney government will have less than a month to negotiate a way out of these new U.S. tariffs. They're set to take effect August 19th.
So I've seen a few videos out there, folks, saying that Canada is going to concede and give concessions to the United States so it doesn't put tariffs on us again. The thing about that is that in one way, it kind of doesn't matter what Canada does, because the Canadian public will continue not to travel to the United States. The Canadian public will continue not to buy Jack Daniels, and the Canadian public will decide for themselves what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. So even if, for example, alcohol is put back on the shelf, American alcohol is put back on the shelf in Ontario tomorrow, A report by Nana said this, is that 75% of Canadians still wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. They still wouldn't touch it. So the damage that Trump has done has been done. And it has repercussions. And all of us have shared those repercussions. And people are already saying, you see this a lot from the Maple Maggers and also the bot accounts, that Carney has given up, the Canadians have given up. Your economy is a wreck. Our economy is growing again. And even if alcohol went back on tomorrow, the damage that has been done to distillers and wineries and beer makers will last for years.
U.S. President Donald Trump is going after Canadian dairy once again. But this isn't just a story about milk. It's really a story about who gets protected, who gets punished, and who ultimately ends up having to pay more for the goods. In the Canadian dairy industry, we have a system in place called supply management. Now, what this does is it limits the amount of milk farmers are allowed to produce every single year. This keeps domestic supply steady. Now, the government also uses very high tariffs to block foreign imports of dairy products above a very small quota. Now, supporters of supply management will say that the system is essential. It protects farmers from brutal price swings. It keeps family farms alive. Critics of the system will say, well, it artificially props up the price of dairy goods for consumers, so Canadians are paying more. And now the dairy industry has effectively become a political shield. And now Donald Trump is targeting Canadian dairy once again, adding a new tariff to products. And he says this comes down to the practice of supply management or the Canadian dairy industry as being unfair to American producers. He's right. It's a protectionist policy. That's the point of it. That's not what I'm here to argue. What I'm here to ask you is whether you think supply management is a good thing or not. Let me know what you think down below, because right now it is a huge wedge in Canadian politics. No matter what political stripe your MP comes from, go ask them about their willingness to talk about supply management, and it'll be like they have seen a ghost. Now, this entire conversation about supply management really comes down to one question for Canadians. Do you want cheaper prices for consumer, more competition and more consumer choice? Or would you prefer to stabilize those farm incomes and have domestic control over our own dairy products? That's the question Canadians need to be asking themselves.
Now that you have seen the evidence, the picture is becoming much clearer. This is no longer just another disagreement over tariffs. It has become a major test of economic power between two of the world's most closest trading partners. While many of the most dramatic predictions remain uncertain, one thing is clear. Decisions made in the coming days could affect food prices, businesses, farmers, consumers throughout North America. The question now is whether leaders will find common grounds or allow this dispute to grow into an even larger economic conflict. What do you think? What will happen next? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below.
Donald Trump is pausing his tariffs on Canada for 30 days because they reached an agreement to secure the border, but in reality, Trump just got played like a fiddle by Canada. So in his statement announcing the deal, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said, "I just had a good call with Donald Trump. Canada is implementing our $1.3 billion border plan. Nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working on protecting the border." He's framing this stuff as new. But in reality, Canada already has 8,500 frontline employees positioned at the border. Oh, and that $1.3 billion border security plan that Canada just announced, yeah, they actually announced that in December of 2024 when Joe Biden was still president. So here's basically what happened. Justin Trudeau and Donald Trump got on the phone and Trudeau said, "Hey, we'll implement this brand new border plan and put a bunch of people at the border just to satisfy your wants and needs. But what you have to do for us is pause those tariffs. We want those to go away for a little bit." And Donald Trump said, "Sure." Canada's agreeing to things that they're already doing, and they got Donald Trump to pause the tariffs. He got played like a fiddle.
So let me get this straight. Canada, you're big mad now because the U.S. is going to now charge you the same prices that you've been charging us for umpteen years now. Well, let's read off some of these prices that the Canadians are charging the United States. Dairy products, 298%. Poultry, 238%. Fish, 100%. Consumer goods, 30%. Lumber, 20%. Steel, 50%. Aluminum, 10%. Copper, 48%. Agricultural products, 250%. Cars, 25%. Guess how much the U.S. is charging them and has been charging them? Cars, 2.5%. Copper, 0%. Aluminum, 0%. Steel, 0%. And y'all are mad at us. Okay.
I was one of the reporters on a phone call with a senior Trump administration official getting all the details about these new tariffs about to hit Canada. Wine, beer, wood products, cement, even hockey sticks are among the goods that are going to be hit by this new 50% tariff that kicks in 30 days from now. All of the products listed by the White House, there are going to be no CUSMA-related tariff exemptions. There are some key industries, though, that will not be hit, including the energy sector. The White House has raised 3 sore points. One, they're angry about the provinces banning alcohol. They're also angry about Canadian actions in the auto sector, and they're mad about Canadian protections for the dairy industry. The Trump administration views these policies as discriminatory and unfair. This is happening at a moment of great uncertainty in the Canada-US relationship and is going to make things worse. And that's because Canada is in the middle of negotiations with the US and Mexico to try and save CUSMA, the Canada-US-Mexico trade agreement. All of this is being viewed by some as possibly a pressure tactic by the Trump administration to try and get Canada to make concessions in the long term. Canadians need to be paying attention to what the Carney government is going to do next. Will there be concessions, or will Canada fight back?
Trump is tired of getting screwed by the Canadians. He's done with this. 50% tariffs on a number of products that the Canadian government dumps in the United States, undercutting us because they subsidize this stuff so they can put American companies out of business and cost us good-paying American jobs. Trump has had enough. He said, look, no more dumping alcohol, autos, dairy. We're going to put 50% tariffs on them. Not 25, 50%. So you're just not going to be able to dump them in the United States because you're trying to put our people out of business and then you don't take our stuff, so there's no reciprocal. So we're done with that. This has nothing to do with the wildfires, which is also a problem. They can't even control that. The Canadian government is just basically incompetent. And Trump is right. Without us, there would be no Canada. They couldn't survive 90 days without the United States. Finally got somebody standing up to these people. And you know what? When we imposed these tariffs the first time and we tried to get fair trade, who are the 2 countries that retaliated? China and Canada. You know why? Because they're aligned with each other, right? They're playing footsie with each other. Hey, Canada wants an alliance with the Chi-Coms? Go ahead. It's not going to be at our expense. Trump will guarantee you that. Now, he invoked Section 338 of what is called the 1930 Trade Act, which he's got the authority to do. Now, the Dems try to get rid of this. You know, the Democrats, socialists, communists are amazing. They say they want to protect the worker, but then every time the President Trump tries to protect the worker, they want to screw the worker. It's all they want to do. So, you know, they opposed it, but it didn't matter. They can't get it repealed. And the bottom line is this. You put tariffs on countries for one reason. You want to stop them dumping cheap-made labor or government-subsidized products into the United States that strips our companies of their ability to be profitable because they underprice them, they undercut them, and therefore cuts our jobs out. And President Trump wants jobs here. He wants our people to get paid, and he wants things made in America, produced here and manufactured here. If you got a foreign government that their taxpayers are subsidizing their means of production so they can dump it here cheaper, you say, well, you know, if we just keep doing that, prices come down for America. Yeah, but at what cost? You're getting things 2 cents cheaper, but then you're costing us jobs, you're costing us manufacturing, you're costing us companies. What good does that do? That's a short-term view. Trump's playing the long game here. He wants jobs, he wants manufacturing, and he's not going to let Canada screw us anymore.
Why should we be buying lumber from other countries?
Because that's where the trees are. These different colors are different kind of trees, and what you need to know is that this is the kind of trees that we like to build houses out of. We can also use these ones, but they're not as good. And as you can see, Canada's just trees galore. So I guess we could cut down our national forests to make 2x4s. But unfortunately, we would actually run out pretty quick. Then we'd have to wait another decade for those trees to grow again so we can harvest them again. And another interesting thing about trees is that the farther north they grow, the slower they grow. And the slower they grow, the harder the wood is, which makes it better. The wood is also better the longer you let the trees grow before you cut them. And these are all uncut forests. When it comes down to it, Canada's wood is just longer, harder, thicker, and uncut. And they are eager to let us have it. We should just let their wood come all over America. Because in reality, we just don't have enough forests in the United States to keep up with the demand for construction. In fact, this is a post that I made in 2017. Remember back in April when Trump got mad about Canadian lumber replacing American lumber? Well, it turns out that a 30% duty on Canadian goods doesn't mean that America produces more lumber. The lumber we used to get from Canada, we are now getting from Europe and Asia, and it costs a lot more. Notably, lumber imports from Russia have increased by over 40%. This lumber comes from forced labor camps in Siberia, where Russia has purchased workers from the North Korean government. So let's break this down. We hurt our relationship with Canada so that we can support the oppression of North Koreans for the benefit of Russia and North Korea's governments, all so that Americans can pay more for soft lumber, and it will cost Americans wanting to build a house 20% more than it would have cost last year. How does that put America first? You know how we have a housing shortage and construction costs have gotten outrageous since 2017? The houses being built now are not as sturdy as houses that were being built 10 years ago, and they cost more. Asking why we get lumber from Canada is like asking why we get coffee from Ethiopia, or why we get pineapples from South America. That's just where they come from.
Well, the Trump administration is fucking over Americans again, fucking over farmers again. China and Canada just worked out another phenomenal trade deal. They slashed tariffs between each other. And what is the biggest message yet? That fine, we're going to cut America out completely. We don't need them anymore. So now Canada is going to buy electric vehicles from China. And this is going to be another like almost final nail in the coffin to electric vehicle manufacturers in the United States that have already been decimated. Jobs have been lost, programs have been cut, you name it, because of Trump's tariffs. This has been a big hit on the auto industry. And now we're not going to have Canada buying any of our electric vehicles anymore, which is like the whole point of giving the big FU to us. But here's the other one, the canola meal. This not only fucks over American farmers, but it's going to lead to even higher food prices for us. Canola meal is a high protein additive for animal feed, mostly dairy cows. And we do not produce nearly what we need in the United States. So we have to import a shit ton from Canada. And farmers were already hit by the huge tariffs of having to import that from Canada, and we're paying the price at the grocery store. But now, with the tariffs being slashed between China and Canada, Canada's just going to sell everything they're producing to China back and forth, and they're both going to do really great. And we're going to get fucked. And share this with a Trump supporter. Because if you think the Trump administration is actually working on making America great again, no. Their focus is on terrorizing Americans through this immigration push. That's all they've been focused on. They're not doing anything to build better in the United States. And we are all paying the price. America has devolved into a piece of shit country, and the rest of the world is learning they can get by without us, and this is the biggest example yet. God.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the Freedom Room. Don't forget to like and share with your family members and friends. And keep watching my channel. Thank you for supporting. See you in the next video.